Tonight, we take pleasure in bringing you Suspense, a weekly anthology of notable melodramas from stage and screen, fiction and radio, presented each week to bring you to the edge of your chair, to keep you in suspense.
Well, what about this place?
Well, what about it?
Why don't we stop here for the night? This place looks like it's been deserted for years.
Are you kidding?
No, Tim, I'm not kidding. We've been pounding over these woodland roads all day, and I'm tired. Besides, you're the one who wanted to do this antiquarian tour of the Deep South. Well, it doesn't get much more antiquarian than this.
You're right about that. Just look at those balustraded galleries. An old plantation house. Even in its current state of decay, there's still a suggestion of the antebellum splendor it once had.
Great. So let's get our bedrolls and sleep in there tonight.
I don't know, John.
Look, the sun's going down. We have no idea where we are, and the last thing we want to do is drive on these goat paths in the dark. So we sleep here tonight and get a fresh start in the morning. Deal?
Yeah, deal.
Good. Grab the blankets out of the back, and a couple of tins for dinner. I'll take a closer look. What the? Tim! Tim!
John, are you okay?
Yeah, sorry, just a flock of pigeons. They dove out of those balustrades and came right at me. Right at my face.
Well, they're gone now. Flown off. Maybe we should get some firewood?
No, these woods are full of rattlesnakes and copperheads. We shouldn't go groping around in the dark for branches.
The hinges on that oaken door. Broken. Guess no one's been here for a long time, huh?
No, doesn't look like it.
Look how thick the dust is on the floor.
This room, just off the entryway, seems like a good spot. Come on, let's lay out our blankets and get some shut-eye.
Oh, what a weird dream. There was someone or something watching us from the top of the stairs. Something with a yellow face, and there was this whistling sound, like nothing I've ever heard, almost unearthly. John, you awake? John? Not there. John? Where are you? John? You upstairs? Oh. Oh, there you are. What are you doing up there? John? John, I can barely see you. Are you all right? John, what's going... John! Dear God! Your head split down the middle. There's blood everywhere. And what are you doing with that hatchet? That bloody hatchet. John!
Hey! Hey, you okay?
Oh, must have passed out.
Well, what are you doing out here in the middle of the night?
My name's Branner. Tim Branner. My brother John and I, we stopped at a deserted house back down the road to spend the night. My God, something came and looked over the balustrade of the stair. Something with a yellow face. I thought I dreamed it, but maybe it was real. And there was this whistling sound when I woke. John wasn't there. I got up to look for him, but then he came down the stair with a bloody hatchet in his hand and... My God, sir, he was dead. His head had been split open. I saw brains and clotted blood oozing down his face, and his face was that of a dead man. But he came down the stairs. As God is my witness, John was murdered in that dark upper hallway, and then his dead body came stalking down the stairs with a hatchet in his hand to kill me. God, you think I'm mad? Perhaps I am.
Son, I don't know what to think. If it was any other house besides that Blassenville Manor, well, we'll see. My name's Buckner. I'm the sheriff of this county. I took a prisoner over to the county seat in the next county and was riding back late. Are you afraid to go back in that house?
The thought of facing that horror again turns me sick. But poor John. We must find his body. My God. What will we find? If a dead man walks...
Shh. All right, let's go.
God, how evil that house looks against those black pines. It looked sinister from the very first when we went up to the broken walk and when we saw those pigeons fly up from under the balustrades.
Wait, you say pigeons? You saw pigeons?
Well, yes, scores of them. They flew right at John.
Son, I've lived in this county all my life. And I've passed the old Blassenville place 1,000 times, I reckon. And at all hours of the day and night. But I never saw any pigeons anywhere around it, or anywhere else in these woods.
But there were scores of them.
Well, I've known of men who swore they'd seen a flock of pigeons perched along the balusters just at sundown. Blacks, all of them, except for one man, a tramp. He was building a fire in the yard, aiming to camp there one night, and he told me about the pigeons. I came back there by the next morning. The ashes of his fire were there, and his tin cup and his skillet where he'd fried pork, and his blankets looked like they'd been slept in. Nobody ever saw him again. That was 12 years ago. The blacks say they can see the pigeons, but none of them would pass along this road between sundown and sunup. They say the pigeons are the souls of the Blassenvilles, let out of hell at sunset, and that the red glare in the west is the light from hell, because then the gates of hell are open, and the Blassenvilles fly out.
Who were the Blassenvilles?
They owned all this land here. French-English family came from the West Indies before the Louisiana Purchase. The Civil War ruined them, well, like it did so many. Some were killed in the war, but most others just died out. Nobody lived in that manor since 1890 when Miss Elizabeth Blassenville, the last of the line, fled from the old house one night like it was a plague spot. Never came back to it. Is this your auto?
Yes.
Okay, I got an electric torch in here. Well, let's have a look inside Blassenville Manor.
Look, a trail of blood drops leading across the floor to Oh, good God! John, face down in the blanket, head split open, just like I said. And that hatchet, he buried it in the floor, right where my head had lain when I slept there.
Branner, you told me a yarn that's hard to believe. What you told me won't hold up in court. You're bound to be accused of killing your brother, and I'll have to arrest you. If you give me the straight goods now, it'll make it easier. Now, didn't you kill your brother? Wasn't that what happened, something like this? You quarreled, he grabbed a hatchet and swung it at you, but you dodged, and then you let him have it.
No, but I didn't murder John. He was my brother. I've told you the truth. I don't blame you for not believing me, but God help me, it is the truth.
I believe this hatchet in his hand is the one he was killed with. Blood and brains plastered on the blade, and hairs sticking to it. Hair's exactly the same color as his. This makes it tough for you, Branner.
How so?
Well, knocks any plea of self-defense in the head. John couldn't have swung at you with this hatchet after you split his skull with it. You must have pulled the hatchet out of his head, stuck it in the floor, and clamped his fingers onto it to make it look like he'd attacked you. And it would have been damn clever if he'd used another hatchet.
But I didn't kill him. I have no intention of pleading self-defense.
And that's what puzzles me. What murderer would rig up such a crazy story as you've told me to prove his innocence? An average killer would have told a logical yarn at least. Blood drops leading from the door. The body was dragged. No, couldn't have been dragged. The floor isn't smeared. You must have carried it here after killing him in some other place. But, in that case, why isn't there any blood on your clothes? Of course, you could have changed clothes and washed your hands. But this fellow hasn't been dead very long.
He walked downstairs and across the room. He came to kill me. I knew he was coming to kill me when I saw him lurching down the stairs.
But if he walked then, why isn't he walking now?
I don't know! I'm too sick to think straight. I've been fearing that he'd rise up from the floor and come at me again. All the time I was running, I kept imagining John chasing me. John with his bloody hatchet and his split head and his death grin.
Look, the blood drops lead upstairs. Now let's follow them. Are you afraid to go upstairs with me?
Yes, but I'm going with you.
All right, stay behind me. If anything jumps us, I'll take care of it. But I warn you that I shoot quicker than a cat jumps, and I don't often miss. So if you've got any ideas of laying me out from behind, you better forget them.
Don't be a fool.
I want to be fair. I haven't indicted or condemned you in my mind already. If only half of what you're telling me is the truth, well, you've been through hell. And I don't want to be too hard on you. But you can see how tough it is for me to believe all you told me. Come on. There's a man's tracks in the dust. Go slow. Gotta be sure of what I see because we're obliterating them as we go up. One set going up, one coming down. Same man. Not your tracks, your brother was bigger than you are. Blood drops all the way. Blood on the banister like a man had laid his bloody hand there. A smear of stuff that looks like brains.
He walked down the stair, a dead man, groping with one hand, the other gripping the hatchet that killed him.
Walked or was carried. But if somebody carried him, where are the tracks? The footprints lead down the hall. Same as on the stair. One set going, one coming. The same prints. Judas!
Blood! A great splash of it on the floor where the tracks end.
And a second set of tracks coming from the opposite direction. Bare feet. Narrow. But with splayed toes. The tracks meet and where they meet, there's blood and brains on the floor. Your brother must have been killed on the spot with a blow from the hatchet. Bare feet coming out of the darkness to meet shod feet, then both turned away again. The shod feet went downstairs, and the bare feet went back down the hall.
Our flashlight beams won't reach all the way down the hall. We'll have to
Suppose your crazy tale was true. These aren't your tracks. They look like a woman's. Suppose somebody whistled, and your brother went upstairs to investigate, and suppose somebody met him here in the dark and split his head. The signs and tracks are just right for that, but if that's so, why isn't he lying here, where he was killed? Could he have lived long enough to take the hatchet away from whoever killed him and stagger down the stairs with it?
No. I saw him on the stair. He was dead. No man could live a minute after receiving such a wound.
All right, I believe it. But it's madness. All right, well, let's follow these other tracks. They lead down the hall. Hey, here, what's this?
Your flashlight is dying.
But this battery is new. Come on, let's get out of here.
Did you hear that? A door opening, very quietly.
Just keep moving.
Your flashlight, it's back on.
I'll tell you, this damn thing was conjured. It couldn't act like that naturally.
Please, turn the light into the room. See if John is...
He's still there. If he walked after he was killed, he hasn't walked since. But that thing,
You're not going back up there, are you?
No. I wouldn't have a chance in the dark. And I've got a hunch the light would go out again. There's something hellish in this house, and I believe I have an inkling of what it is. All right, whatever killed your brother's up there now. And I never met anything I was afraid to tackle in the dark before, but I don't believe that there's anything upstairs that's human. It's not long until dawn. We'll wait till then on the porch. Hey, Branner. Tim. Why don't you close your eyes for a few minutes? I'll stand on guard.
Oh, okay.
Wake up. Wake up, it's daylight.
I'm ready. Let's go upstairs.
Relax, I already been. When as soon as it was light, I found nothing.
But the tracks of the bare feet...
They're all gone.
Gone?
Yep, gone. Dust had been disturbed all over the hall from the point where their brother's tracks ended and swept into the corners. No chance of tracking anything there now. Something obliterated those tracks while we sat here, and I didn't hear a sound. I've gone through the whole house and not a sign of anything.
But with those tracks gone, there goes my only chance of proving my story.
Here's what we'll do. We'll take your brother's body to the county seat. Say nothing about what's happened here. No one would believe the facts as they appear now anyway. I'll simply tell the district attorney that John Branner was killed by a party or parties unknown, and that I'm working on this case. Are you game to come back with me to this house and spend the night? Sleeping in that same room as you and John slept last night?
I'll do it.
Good. Now help me back this body out into your auto. Tim, if you're going to understand what's happening with that old house, I need to tell you more about the Blassenvilles. They were haughty folks, with a streak of cruelty in them, especially Miss Celia, the last one of the family to come here from the West Indies. After the Civil War, the family died off pretty fast, living in poverty on the plantation, which fell to ruin. Finally, only 4 girls were left, sisters, living in that old house and eking out a bare living, with a few blacks working the fields on a share. The sisters kept to themselves, being proud and ashamed of their poverty. Then Miss Celia came to live with them and brought a mulatto maid with her. The Blassenville cruelty cropped out in her treatment of this maid. I knew an old man years ago who swore he saw Miss Celia tie the girl to the tree, stark naked, and whipped her with a horsewhip. So, nobody was surprised when the maid disappeared. Everyone just thought she'd run off. Well, one day in the spring of 1890, Miss Elizabeth, the youngest girl, came to town for the first time in a year. She came after supplies, said the blacks had all left the place. Talked a little more, too. A bit wild. Said Miss Celia had gone without leaving any word. Said her sisters thought she'd come back from the West Indies. But she believed her aunt was still in the house. She didn't say what she meant. Well, a month passed, and one of her neighbors stopped in to see her. Found out she was living in that manor alone, that her 3 sisters weren't there anymore, that they'd left one by one without giving any explanation. But she didn't know where they'd gone, and was afraid to stay there alone. But she didn't know where else to go. So she stayed there in mortal terror, locked in her room at night. Well, one night, Miss Elizabeth came tearing into town nearly dead from fright. Said she'd found a secret room in the manor, and in there, she found her 3 sisters dead, hanging by their necks from the ceiling. She said something chased her with a hatchet, and she ran out the front door, but somehow she got away. She was nearly crazed with fear and didn't know what it was that chased her, but it looked like a woman with a yellow face. The house was searched from top to bottom, but no one found any secret room or the remains of the sisters. But they did find a hatchet sticking in the door jamb downstairs with some of Miss Elizabeth's hair stuck onto it, just as she said. She would never go back, and she left town for good soon after. Nobody ever bought that house. It stood there, just as she left it.
What did the people think about Miss Elizabeth's story?
Well, most folks just thought she'd gone crazy living in that old house alone, but some people believed that mulatto girl, Joan, didn't run away after all, that she'd hidden in the woods and glutted her hatred of the Blassenvilles by murdering Miss Celia and the 3 girls. They beat the woods with bloodhounds but never found any trace of her. If there was a secret room in that house, she might have been hiding there, if there was anything to that theory.
But she couldn't have been hiding there all these years. Anyway, the thing in the house now isn't human. Where are you going?
There's an old Negro that lives off this way a mile or 2. I want to talk to him. He's nearly 100 years old. They say he's a voodoo man.
Voodoo. To me, witchcraft always meant the old towns of New England. But all this is more terrible than any New England legend. These somber pines, old deserted plantations, tales of madness and horror.
Shh. Here's old Jacob's hut.
Hello?
Jacob, it's Sheriff Buckner. Time has come for you to talk. You're the only one that knows the secret of Blassenville Manor. I've never questioned you about it because it wasn't in my line. But someone was murdered there last night, and this young man's gonna hang for it, unless you tell me what haunts that old house of the Blassenvilles.
The Blassenvilles. Well, they were proud people, sirs. Proud and cruel. Miss Celia was the proudest and the cruelest. The black people hated her. Joan, most of all. Joan had white
blood in her, and she was proud, too. But Miss Celia whipped her like a slave.
Jacob, what is the secret of Blassonville Manor?
Oh, sir, life is sweet, even to an old man.
So, you mean somebody would kill you if you told me?
No, not somebody. No human being. The blackguards of the swamps. My secret is inviolate, guarded by the big serpent, the god above all gods. He would send a little brother to kiss me with his cold lips, a little brother with a white crescent moon on his head. I sold my soul to the big serpent when he made me maker of Zuvembis.
Whoa. I heard that word once before, from the lips of a dying black man when I was a child. What does it mean?
Oh, what have I said? No. I said nothing.
Zuvembis.
Zuvembis. A Zuvembi was once a woman. On the slave coast, they know of them. The drums that whisper by night in the hills of Haiti tell of them. The makers of Zuvembis are honored of the people of Dambala. It is death to speak of it to a white man. It is one of the snake god's forbidden secrets.
Go on, Jacob. You speak of the Zuvembis.
No, I must not speak of it. The big snake punishes loose tongues with death.
A Zuvembi? You said it's a woman?
Was a woman. She knew I was a maker of Zuvembis. She came and stood in my hut and asked for the awful brew. The brew of ground snake bones, the blood of vampire bats, the dew from a night hawk's wings, and other elements unnameable. She had danced in the black ceremony. She was ripe to become a Zuvembi. The black brew was all that was needed. She was beautiful. I could not refuse her.
Who? You gave a brew to make a woman a Zuvembi. What is a Zuvembi?
A Zuvembi is no longer human. It knows neither relatives nor friends. It commands the natural demons, owls, bats, snakes, and werewolves, and can fetch darkness to blot out a little light. It can be slain by lead, but unless it is slain thus, it lives forever. Time means naught to the Zuvembi. An hour, a day, a year, all the same. It cannot speak human words, nor think human thoughts, but it can hypnotize the living by the sound of its voice. And when it slays a man, it can command his lifeless body until the flesh is cold. Its pleasure lies in the slaughter of human beings.
But why should one become a Zuvembi?
For hate's sake. Hate. Revenge.
The one who asked for the brew, was her name Joan?
Joan. I have not heard that name for the span of a generation. Oh. Gentlemen, pardon me. Old men fall asleep before the fire like old dogs. You asked me of Blassonville Manor. Sir, if I were to tell you why I cannot answer you, you would deem it mere superstition. But...
Damn! A rattler!
Is he dead?
Dead as Judas Iscariot. That infernal snake crammed enough poison into his veins to kill a dozen men his age. But I think it was fright that killed him. Now come on.
What about old Jacob?
Just leave him for now. Tonight we've got work to do.
He said the big snake would send a little brother.
Nonsense. Snakes like warmth, and that swamp is full of them. It's crawling in and coiled up among that firewood. Old Jacob disturbed it, and it bit him. Nothing supernatural about that. Still, that was the first time I ever saw a rattler strike without singing. And the first time I ever saw a snake with a white crescent moon on his head.
So, you believe? You think that the mulatto Joan has skulked in the house all these years?
You heard what old Jacob said. Time means nothing to these Zubembis. Now come on. All right, we're just about there.
Look. Black against the lurid glare.
Well, I've seen them at last.
Only the doomed see them, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe. All right, come on. Here, help me with these bedrolls. I'll lie next to the door. You lie where you did last night.
Twilight's almost gone. Shall we, light a fire in the grate?
No. You've got a flashlight, and so have I. We'll lie here in the dark and see what happens.
Don't imagine there's been a fire lit in here for more than 40 years. Hey.
What? You find something?
An old notebook. Looks like a diary, but the ink is so faded and the paper is in such a state of decay that I can't tell much about it. Wait, here's an entry that's legible. Listen. I know someone is in the house besides myself. I can hear someone prowling about when the sun has set and the pines are black outside. Often in the night, I hear it fumbling at my door. Who is it? Is it one of my sisters? Or Aunt Celia? If it is either of these, why does she steal so subtly about the house? Why does she tug at my door and glide away when I call to her? Shall I open the door and go out to her? No, I dare not. I'm afraid. Oh God, what shall I do? I dare not stay here, but where am I to go?
By God, that must be Elizabeth Blassonfield's diary. Here, I'll give you some light.
Why did all the Negroes run away when Aunt Celia disappeared? My sisters are dead. I know they are dead. I seem to sense that they died horribly, in fear and agony. But why? If someone murdered Aunt Celia, why should that person murder my poor sisters? They were always kind to the black people. Joan... A piece of the page is torn out. Here's another entry under another date. At least I judge its date. I can't make it out for sure. The awful thing that the old negress hinted at? She named Jacob Blount and Joan, but she would not speak plainly. Perhaps she feared to... And part of it is gone here, but then it continues. No, no! How can it be? She is dead and gone away. Yet she was born and raised in the West Indies, and from hints she let fall in the past, I know she delved into the mysteries of the voodoo. I believe she even danced in one of their horrible ceremonies. How could she have been such a beast? And this horror. God, how can such things be? I know not what to think. If it is she who roams the house at night, who fumbles at my door, who whistles so weirdly and sweetly. No, I must be going mad. If I stay here alone, I shall die as hideously as my sisters must have died. Of that I am convinced. What do you make of it?
What I've suspected all the time. That mulatto maid Joan turned Zuvembi to avenge herself on Miss Celia. Probably hated the whole family as much as she did her mistress. She'd taken part in voodoo ceremonies on her native island until she was ripe. As old Jacob said, all she needed was a black brew, and he supplied that. She killed Miss Celia and the 3 older girls and would have gotten Elizabeth, but for chance. She's been lurking in this old house all these years, like a snake in a ruin.
But why would she murder a stranger?
You heard what old Jacob said. A Zuvembi finds satisfaction in the slaughter of humans. She called your brother up the stairs and split his head, then sent him downstairs to murder you.
She came and peered over the balustrade of the stair at us. But why didn't we find her tracks on the stair?
Maybe a Zuvembi can project her spirit. No. Why try to rationalize something that's outside the bounds of rationality? Let's begin our watch.
Don't turn out the light. Sorry? Of course, turn it out. We must be in the dark as John and I were. Must lie very still. Fiend will strike again tonight. When? And how? Will it choose me or Buckner? Or is Buckner already dead? Perhaps the fiend has already struck in silence and taken the sheriff's place, there to lie in ghoulish glee until it was ready to strike. I must get out of this house before it's too late. Not even fear of the gallows can make me stay here one more second. Dark. I can't even see the stars through the thick tangle of branches. Now I'm climbing a hill, but how can that be? There isn't a hill within miles of Blassenville Manor. But at least now I can see some light. A dim glow in the direction I'm headed. No, it can't be. I'm not outside. Not climbing a hill at all. I'm in Blassenville Manor. I'm in the upstairs hallway of Blassenville Manor. Dear God, I can't move. I can't turn back. Can't even fling myself over the balustrade. And there, coming toward me, witchfire glow, and in it a shape, like a woman. But no human woman ever walked with that skulking gait. Ever had that leering yellow blur of lunacy for a face? Oh, Buckner! Buckner, help! Oh, for God's sake, I can't move!
Are you hurt? God! Man, are you hurt? There's a butcher knife there on the floor.
I'm not hurt. You fired just in time. The fiend, where is it? Where did it go?
Shh! Listen. Jacob was right. Lead can kill them. I hit her. I hit her all right. Didn't dare use my flashlight, but there was enough light. When that whistling started, you almost walked over me getting out, and I knew you were hypnotized. I followed you up the stairs, and I was right behind you, but crouching. Low so she wouldn't see me. I almost waited too long before I fired, but the sight of her almost paralyzed me too. Here, let me help you up. Look! The secret panel Miss Elizabeth found. Come on! There's a room ahead. The secret room of the Blassenvilles.
My God. A windowless chamber with 3 bodies hanging. Dried, shriveled, still clad in the moldering garments of the last century.
Wow. The 3 Blassenville sisters.
Look. There. Over there in the corner. Was that thing a woman once? God, look at that face. Even in death. And those claw-like hands with black talons like those of a beast. It was human, though. Clad in the rags of an old ballroom gown. Why should a mulatto maid wear such a dress, I wonder?
This has been her lair for over 40 years. This clears you, Tim. A crazy woman with a hatchet. That's all the authorities need to know. God, what a revenge. What a foul revenge. Yet, what a bestial nature she must have had. In the beginning, to delve into voodoo as she must have done.
The mulatto woman?
We misunderstood old Jacob's maunderings. And the things Miss Elizabeth wrote, she must have known, but family pride sealed her lips. Tim, I understand now. Joan had her revenge, but not as we supposed. She didn't drink the black brew old Jacob fixed for her. It was for somebody else, to be given secretly in her food or coffee, no doubt. Then Joan ran away, leaving the seeds of hell she'd sown to grow. When I saw her out there in the hallway, I knew she was no mulatto, and those distorted features still reflect a family likeness. I've seen her portrait, and I can't be mistaken. There lies the creature that was once Celia Blassenville.
So ends Pigeons from Hell by John C. Alsedek and Dana Perry-Hayes. Tonight's story of Suspense. Suspense is produced by Blue Hours Productions and recorded at Melrose Music in Hollywood, California. Tonight's radio drama was adapted for radio by John C. Alsedek and Dana Perry-Hayes from the short story by Robert E. Howard. Scott Henry was Sheriff Buckner, Daniel Hackman was Tim Branner, Sean Hackman was John Branner, and Daamen Krall was Jacob Blount. I'm your host, Daamen Krall. Next week at this time, tune in again for another study in suspense.